University of Virginia recently hosted Vice President Mike Pence to speak on campus. The University of Virginia newspaper called for the school to rescind the invitation. Here we have University of Virginia student Blake Boudreaux to tell us about what happened at the event. Blake, it's great to have you on. So, were there any protesters?
Thanks for having me. Surprisingly, there were very few protesters. But what happened was last Tuesday, Vice President Mike Pence was invited to speak by Young Americans for Freedom. And our student newspaper, the Cavalier Daily, did the typical liberal hit piece on him, calling him a hateful and violent man and saying that his rhetoric put students in danger. This was not very surprising to anybody who knows UVA, because UVA promotes a culture that is unaccepting of conservative values and ideas. I've seen this even in my own time as a student. In my very first semester, multiple upperclassmen told me that I should try to hide my conservative and Christian beliefs and values, because if people saw that about me, I could become a target of the radical mob. And it's no surprise that that same radical mob would go after Mike Pence.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not the first time campus reform has reported on University of Virginia. In the past, the Thomas Jefferson statue on campus has been vandalized and there's been calls for its removal. Do you think this limited free speech is the vision that Thomas Jefferson had for University of Virginia?
Absolutely not. Thomas Jefferson envisioned a university where people could develop intellectually and speak their minds, but at this point, it's just become a liberal hive mind. And we've seen things like this all the time. So in other instances, last year even, there was a student who was kicked out for questioning microaggressions. And a couple years back, a Black student stood up in the middle of the Multicultural Student Center and said that all the white people should leave. So this is something that is not what Thomas Jefferson envisioned at all.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Luckily for the Vice President Mike Pence's speech, it seemed to be there a lot of people in attendance. So it calls to question, is it the small minority of students that are really controlling the conversation on campus? Do you think the majority of students stand for free speech?
I think so. We see a lot of students that don't want to be lumped in with the radical mob, and they don't want to be a part of cancel culture. So I think that even the fact that the speech could go on without any major hiccups shows that conservatives are gaining ground in the culture wars. And it really just goes to show campuses across the country that if conservatives speak up and join together, then there's lots of reason for encouragement. I saw many more conservatives than I was expecting to see at UVA. And I even overheard some liberal students remarking to each other that they were surprised by how many conservatives there were at UVA.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, Blake. We really appreciate it, and we hope to have you again sometime.